My friends, fellow citizens, and defenders of liberty. There are certain rights so essential to the human spirit that without them, freedom cannot survive. Among these are the right to speak our minds, to gather peacefully with one another, and to petition our government for redress of grievances without fear of punishment or persecution. These rights are not merely words on parchment, they are the living heartbeat of a free republic. The First Amendment was not written as a suggestion. It was written as a guarantee. Our founders knew from bitter experience what happens when people are silenced, when the king decides which opinions may be spoken, which meetings may be held, and which complaints may be heard. They risked everything to build a nation where the government would answer to the people, not the other way around. Freedom of speech and assembly are not privileges handed down by rulers, they are natural rights, endowed by our Creator, secured by our Constitution, and preserved only if we have the courage to defend them. To speak freely is to think freely. It is how truth is tested, how errors are corrected, and how progress is made. When speech is stifled, so too is the search for truth. Every great reform, every movement for justice, began when someone dared to speak against the tide. Abolitionists spoke when slavery was accepted. Suffragists spoke when women were told to stay silent. Civil rights leaders spoke when it was dangerous to do so. In every generation, freedom's story has been written by the voices of ordinary citizens who refuse to be quiet. But freedom of speech is not only for the popular or the powerful. It exists to protect the dissenting voice, the minority opinion, the unpopular truth. It exists so that even the smallest citizen can look the most powerful official in the eye and say, "You are wrong," without fear of prison or persecution. Once the right to speak freely is lost for one person, it is endangered for all. And so it is with the right to peacefully assemble and to petition the government. These are the tools by which free people make their voices heard collectively. The right to stand side by side, to raise signs, to chant, to meet in public squares, and to demand better from those in power, this is how democracy breathes. Tyranny begins the moment citizens are too afraid to gather, too afraid to question, or too afraid to stand together. Some today say that free speech has become too dangerous, that it offends, divides, or disrupts. But the purpose of free speech was never to make us comfortable, it was to make us think. To challenge us. To sharpen the truth by striking it against error. Silence may feel safe, but it is the silence of submission. Debate is the noise of freedom. To protect these rights, we must also protect the right to disagree. The answer to bad ideas is not censorship, it is better ideas. The remedy for falsehood is truth spoken boldly. When we suppress speech, we do not eliminate dangerous thoughts, we drive them underground, where they grow in darkness. But when we allow all voices to be heard, the light of open debate exposes lies and strengthens what is right. And what of the right to petition the government? It is the direct line between the governed and those who govern. It is our peaceful alternative to violence and rebellion. When citizens can petition their leaders, demand accountability, and expect a hearing, freedom endures. When they cannot, frustration festers and liberty fades. The ability to say, "This policy is unjust," or "You have failed to listen," is not an act of rebellion, it is an act of citizenship. We must never allow fear to silence our voices. The moment people are afraid to speak or assemble, power begins to consolidate in the hands of the few. A government that can silence its critics can commit any abuse without consequence. History teaches this again and again: when free speech dies, tyranny lives. The preservation of liberty requires more than laws on paper. It requires citizens who will exercise their rights bravely, and defend the rights of others even when they disagree. Freedom of speech, assembly, and petition are not partisan values, they are American values. They belong to all of us, left and right, young and old, because they protect everyone's voice. So let us use them, not recklessly, but responsibly, not to tear one another down, but to build one another up. Let us debate fiercely yet respect each other's right to be heard. Let us gather peacefully not to destroy, but to strengthen the bonds of our republic. And let us never forget that the right to speak freely today was paid for by generations who refused to bow in silence. The power of a free people lies not in their weapons, nor in their wealth, but in their words, in the courage to speak, to assemble, and to seek justice through peaceful means. That is the true strength of America. That is the spirit we must guard, the liberty we must preserve, and the legacy we must pass on to our children. So long as we speak without fear, gather without violence, and petition without silence, freedom will not perish from this land. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay informed, stay free.